Good morning. As Wesley indicated, I've been on the task force since the beginning, and for how many constitutional county judges we have out there? You know, people from the county on that. There are two members of the task force that are on Commissioner's Court, Judge Glenn Whitley, who's the county judge in Tarrant County, and myself on that. And so we have a little different perspective sometimes on the things we discuss. And all of us, to be sure, are concerned and supportive of indigent defense, but Judge Whitley and I also look the money aspect of this. How do we pay for this? You know, how do we get stuff done? And one of the things that at least I noticed in my service on the committee was on some of the special grants that we had out for innovative projects. And I talked with some of our people and said, what are some things that perhaps we could do? Perhaps we could get some help from the task force to help fund this that would help us in our process. And we had a little experience on this. During our tenure, our county clerk had to retire due to health reasons. And so the Commissioner's Court, rather than appointing a successor clerk, kept an interim clerk in there. We were able to go in, bring in some consultants, and kind of have an outside look of how things really worked over there on that, and set up new processes and procedures that we probably could not have gotten done, you know, had we were dealing with another independent elected official, but things that needed to be done on cash flow and other things along that line. And we found it was very successful to bring in some outside people who could get that independent look of how things happen. We also found out it was helpful for them to get that broader picture, because sometimes if you're going to go in and you want to automate something, you go talk to the people that are doing stuff, and they tell you what they're doing, and your people can put a program together that automates what they're doing, but not really looking at why are they doing that, you know. And so we had that broader picture of how things were working, and maybe we need to relook how that ought to work. Our project we're working on right now is called our Indigent Defense Web Portal. And what is hopefully it will help us do is to create some transparency of what we're doing. People are suspicious about this. To help measure our performances, and we'll talk about how the entire process of collaboration of people within the county work together to result in some changes here. And some changes of culture that some of them weren't expected, that we really weren't working toward those changes of culture, but some of the things that just happened on that. We're going to talk about three kind of gears as part of this process. The software part, which is a part of it, the business process change, and this is what we saw as we kind of went through our system, and the plan and judicial changes. Now I'll tell a little bit more about our other two presenters. District Judge Fancy Jezek. Fancy brought to the court some experience. She was board certified in family law, been a family law mediator, worked in criminal law, but she had also been the general counsel for two of the school systems, Temple ISD and Killeen ISD. Most people don't know that, but the city of Killeen is bigger than Waco. You know, it's like 127,000 people. But the city of Killeen also has Fort Hood, has 48,000 troops there. We have a very young population. The Killeen ISD has 40,000 students in Killeen ISD. That's more than Waco and Temple and Belton and a number of all together. And so Judge Jezek was their general counsel. She had a perspective of change within the systems on that. But the main thing that Judge Jezek did for us is she embraced the project. She became our advocate with our judges. We have 5 district judges and 3 county court of law judges, and she became the advocate for this change, the person that could sell it to the other judges, you know, put it in a method that took a little while to get some buy-in, to get along, to make some changes on this. But Judge Jezek has been our advocate over there on that, and she has seen the advantage that this has. Brad Sibley. Brad came to us originally with Indigent Healthcare Solutions, but was working for the organization that helped us do our change within our clerk's office. That we've had these people working with us for over 10 years on different projects, from the J.D. Edwards financial projects to other things. And so to a certain extent, these people knew how things worked in the county better than the people in the county knew how things work, because they saw that broader picture on that and brought that perspective to us. So with that said, I'm going to turn it over to Brad here to kind of get us going on this, on where we are on our project and how this will help those of you that are involved with the money aspect maybe get things done a little cheaper, a little faster. One of the things that we found out it does for us on some of the systems we put in place is we move people through the system faster. You know, it costs us X dollars a day every time someone is in our jail. And if these are people that would qualify for personal bond, they'll qualify on day one just as well as they would qualify on day 5 out there. In the meantime, you've moved them out of the system. If you get someone appointed sooner within the system, they move through the system faster on that. You have those efficiencies there. And so while we're certainly, main point is for indigent defense and competent indigent defense on this, a sideline of this is you get the monetary assistance of moving through the system faster, getting taken care of quicker, and having those efficiencies. And we all know how budgets are and how difficult it is these days. And so with that said, Brad, if you'll start us off here on this, and we'll go forward on the Bell County Indigent Defense web portal.
The title of our talk here is Creating Transparency and Measuring Performance. As the judge spoke of, we started this project a year and a half, 2 years ago, which was initially through an assessment that was funded by the Commissioner's Court. That assessment was done by the organization I work for. At the end of the assessment, we came back with recommendations to improve the process. And then the Commissioner's Court, as well as the judicial judges, says, that's great, let's do it. And that's what brought us here today. As Judge Burrows said, Judge Jezek, myself and Judge Burrows, one of the great things about working with Bell County and working in this environment is it truly is a collaboration between the Commissioner's Court and the judicial judges. I've worked in many counties, and you can't always say that's the case. And so, quick video on Bell County. Presentation.
This began as a look at our indigent defense plan, and we wanted to improve some software aspects of it. And so we began to look at it. The problem with looking at things is then you discover kind of what's going on. And this was across departments, court coordinators, the judiciary, the sheriff's office, the clerk's office, how the paperwork moves, how the people move through the process. And what we discovered is we were doing things in a certain way because we'd always done them that way. That's not necessarily a good reason for doing them, but that was what was happening. And so we began to look across department lines. And we were hoping that this would be a fairly quick process. We'll look, we'll see what we need to do, we'll make those changes, and we'll move on. It doesn't move that quickly, and it doesn't move without sitting down at the table and listening to folks, giving everyone that has a piece of this action time to be heard, and for everyone to understand what their role is and how we need to fit these pieces together. It became apparent to me very early in the process that we had to build a consensus. There's no benefit in someone coming in and saying, okay, here's the way we're going to do it. Here's the rules, and now today everybody start. We're going to make these changes. We had to build a consensus. The judges had to all sit down and agree on how some things were going to happen and how we were going to make those changes. First of all, whether those changes needed to be made, and then if they did, how we were going to make them, how we were going to improve that system. And that collaboration takes some time, but it is time well spent, because if you don't have the buy-in, if you don't have that collaboration, the new system, these improvements are not going to work. And we went so far as to involve our local bar. We've had meetings with the defense attorneys that are serving our indigent defense population, our indigent defendants. We've sat down with them. We've listened to them. We've made some improvements along the way that made them happy, and it's worked. But it's time consuming, and it is not a quick process.
The three areas that we're going to discuss, the first piece is software. And when we started out on the project, it was indigent defense software and business-related process changes. And with any project, you learn quickly that software is one component of it, and it's probably the most minor component. People most of the time believe that software will fix your problems. Software only automates your problems unless they're addressed. And so one of the things that we wanted to make sure is that we didn't just automate bad decisions. We didn't want to increase the speed of bad decisions and at the end of the day have a report that showed our bad decisions. That wasn't, I think, the goal of the judges or the goal of the Commissioners Court. So with that in mind, yes, software was developed, but what we found was in a lot of cases, we would uncover something that had to be fixed before moving forward. And we couldn't automate that process at that point. Early on in the project, we were able to go back and say, you know, this is the way we're doing it, and we can fix that, but is it really the way we want to do it? Which is a different discussion and decision that we eventually had to take back to the judges and say, this is the situation, what's the answer? So software was developed. I've got a short being about 3-minute video on the software. Don't want to make the presentation about the software because in my eyes, the software is a small component. It's a great component, but the other changes are much more important. obviously you won't be able to understand all the functionality, but just to say that through the course of the project, our goal was to make the eligibility process as objective as possible outside of the role of the judges. The judges have the discretion, and those putting in the information do not. And so that's really the driver for the software. The software is in production today, used by Bell County Pretrial Services. The system includes eligibility information that is put in, a recommended eligibility decision based on the plan that's approved by the judges, reporting component, as well as the actual automated attorney appointment. Those appointments are from lists that are approved by the judges and are on a rotating basis, automatic. All of the software has an audit function that if anything is overridden or changed, that's included. Through the process, we also looked at attorney billing forms, and we'll get into that in a few minutes, but the software was one component that was really driving the rest of the project. Those portals include, portals are soon to come, an attorney billing voucher form in the portal that's tied directly to the appointment, and a judicial portal for approving those vouchers and routing them to the auditor's office electronically. Today, from the moment that someone walks in through the Bell County Jail and is seen by Pretrial Services to the point an appointment is made, we generate zero paper. It is an electronic process that is signed electronically, that is appointed electronically, and very soon the appointment will go out electronically via automatic emails. So some exciting information, and I talked about implementing soon. Judge?
As judges, we don't make determinations about whether or not a defendant is indigency. The judges sat down and developed the financial questionnaire, the information that we want, and we developed the criteria for determining in our county who is indigent and will receive appointment of counsel and who won't. And those that takes place at the jail with pretrial services on a daily basis, and those decisions are made on a daily basis. At one point, we were appointing counsel within 1 hour of determining whether or not a defendant is indigent. And those defendants are interviewed. We have pretrial services at the jail for 2 full shifts of every day. So the process is very quick, and it's gotten much quicker, and the attorney appointment is much quicker. We also...
Jessica, about interrupting here, but moving pretrial services into the jail. Where they see them there. Before, jail personnel were helping people with questionnaires and stuff, and it was, not complete, incomplete, the hit and miss type of thing on there. And we've got our professionals now working through this, and so that puts it through the process much quicker.
We have combined our indigent defense and our PR bond, so that when they're being interviewed by in the jail by the pretrial services, they're being considered for indigent defense and appointment of counsel, but they're also being looked at from a PR bond standpoint. So those decisions are being made, and the judges have set the criteria for both, and the attorney is appointed, and if they're eligible for a PR bond, they may be bonding out immediately.
One of the, as we discussed in the project, you think it's this big and you learn it's this big. I think one of the misconceptions that we ran across was indigent defense was an office in the corner that appointed attorneys, and that was the impact that indigent defense had in a county, both physically and workload. What we found was that indigent defense hits every department in some manner, either financially or through the courts process, law enforcement. So we put together this visual to understand that when you talk about expending funds on indigent defense, you're also talking about an internal workflow that includes length of time in jail. Do we pay an attorney to speed along the process, or do we pay to keep them in the jail? those decisions are internal decisions on workflow and process that is not necessarily a dollar figure on a general ledger report. We also, through the assessment, identified time delays, which is when we moved the two departments together. We identified that pretrial services should be in the jail at the booking area, and consolidating the interview process for PR bond and indigent defense. Now, they're separate decisions, but the collection of data happens at the same time.
Because anytime you're doing any type of change, everyone just gets a little antsy about that. But we had a seminar where this was a part of our CLA program, but this was part of it, to explain it to our local bar, get questions from them then, and they had some good ideas that we implemented on that. And we had a little carrot that we were able to hang out there in front of them, and with cooperation of our auditor's office and the automation of this process, we moved the payment to attorneys, which is an important thing to them, from maybe monthly to a weekly basis on that. And so that was a carrot that we could put out there. The automation of the process made that work. We didn't have fee statements sitting in a file sometime because it was a little different than what was expected, so I'll look at that later, and so later becomes a week later or whatever on that. And so that has worked very well. I think my impression is that the local bar has been very supportive of this, and the process moves much quickly.
One of those stories where you think it's this big and it ends up being this big, we were looking to, hey, can we expedite attorney fee vouchers and payment, and look at what is the time delay in getting paid, where are these vouchers going, can we work on that? Well, that little project, that day event, a day in the life of a voucher, turned out to be a very lengthy process where we were finding that people were not being paid, not because they were not getting the voucher in, but because it was in a clerk's office or it was on someone's desk, up to 2 and 3 months, max of 6 months. And we had vouchers coming into the system from 4 different offices. The attorney would get the judge to sign it, and sometimes it would come into the district clerk's office. Sometimes it would come from the judge's office, indigent defense, the auditor's office. There was no consistent method. So that was a project that ended up having to change the whole workflow for an attorney fee voucher. The same kind of effort went around inmate request issues, complaints from inmates in the jail. I took a couple days and followed inmate request forms and found that they went 6 different ways. And sometimes that form was copied and sent to another office, and when you asked them what they did with it, they copied it and sent it to the next office. And through that process, we realized if we could just streamline to get it to the right office alone, would save us 2 and 3 weeks of processing time that we know for a fact generates more attorney issues. So we went through that effort. Through the business process change, we realized that the information that we were gathering on an attorney fee voucher and the information we reported to the state were 2 different buckets of information. And you probably know this. So what we did is we decided, why don't we capture what we report at the voucher level? And so we went back and did that, worked with the auditor's office to realign the general ledger codes to the attorney fee voucher. So today, if you were to fill out an attorney fee voucher in Bell County, I can tell you when the judge signs it what general ledger code that a fee voucher will go against. That has helped the auditor's office extreme amount of time, because before that it was a manual review process to figure out how to report it to the state.
Let me step back for just a moment. We've talked about the changes to some of the process regarding the attorneys, but one of the very significant things that we did, judges that handle criminal cases in Bell County now meet monthly. We meet usually on a Wednesday during a lunch hour, and that is an opportunity to sit down and kind of review what's going on. It's amazing that some of the problems that I'm having, they're also having down the hall in the other 2 or 3 or 4 courts that go on. So when we sit and at these lunch sessions, we have an opportunity to kind of see what the problems are and to try to address some fixes. One of the things that we've done in this process is we have completely, we scrapped our old wheels and we said, all right, Bell County Bar Association, if you want to be on the court appointment list now, everybody's got to reapply. We're going to look at brand new applications. We're going to start from scratch. And so we had every attorney that was interested in being on the wheels reapply. And the judges sat down and over, I don't know how many hours it took us. Yes, it took us a lot longer than Brad wanted us to take. But we reviewed every application.
And the important note on that to the bar was it's not business as usual anymore. We are doing a new application. We're doing a new process for appointments. But the great thing that came out of that process from the judge's standpoint is they didn't just rubber stamp those that applied.
Right. We had some people that didn't make it on our list that maybe had been on the list in the past. But we wanted the attorneys to understand this is a new day. There will be more accountability than there's been in the past. One of the things that we do that seems simple at this point is we track how quickly they get there on their first appointment. Hold on just a second. We track how quickly they get there on their first appointment. Well, if they don't get there in a timely fashion, Pretrial Services sends them an email and says, oops.
Just a graph if you want to.
Oops, you didn't make it there on time. Then they check, Pretrial Services checks again to make sure that they did make it. If they still haven't made it, they send them an email that says, oops, you still haven't made it. And oh, by the way, this email is being copied to the judge. And in our plan it says, and if you still don't go, then you get a letter, a very friendly, kind letter from the judges that says, obviously you are way too busy to handle court appointments right now, and we're going to help you by taking you off the list on a temporary basis.
It's a wonderfully written letter.
It's a very nice letter. It is, and we do understand that, attorneys get busy, and we do understand. Sometimes they do get too busy and are too overloaded to provide the competent representation that these defendants are entitled to.
But that process was completely new. Up until that point, a judge would potentially take them off a will, but it was one at a time if they thought something was going on. Now, in the plan, there's actually an escalation process, and step 1 is this, level 2 is this, and level 3 is this, and it's clear-cut. One of the things born out of this was if an attorney goes on hold, and any judge can put an attorney on hold, and they're on hold for all courts. What we were excited to figure out was the county judges said, well, that sounds like a great idea, and so now if you go on hold in district court, you're pretty much on hold in county, district, and juvenile.
And the other thing that's happened is we've sent one of those letters. The word's out. The word's out. You had your hand up, and I apologize. Well, certainly when we became, we wanted the attorneys appointed, no, not directly, but yes, we wanted to make it more efficient. We wanted attorneys appointed earlier. Certainly that decision, was a factor, but we wanted to improve the system across the board.
One of the
Hold on just a second.
Uh-huh.
Does your system include the appointment of attorneys for appeals as well?
Yes. We have a separate wheel for attorneys that are qualified. And we have our attorneys can represent misdemeanors. They can represent state jail and thirds. They can represent first and seconds. They do whatever they want to, so long as they meet the requirements of our plan. And the higher level offense you are going to represent, the more experienced you must be. On appeals, part of the appellate our process is you file an application to be on that wheel, and you send us a copy of one of your briefs.
The judges make that decision collectively.
The judges that are hearing criminal cases in Bell County. District and county. We meet together. No. It's just... No, we have not done that. We have not done that. And I'll tell you that in Bell County, we don't have enough attorneys in our county that want to do appeals, and we have gone outside.
I'm an appellate judge, so this is kind of me. Have you found out why there are not many appellate attorneys in your county that want to do appeals?
I think we have great lawyers. I think we have some of the best defense attorneys in Bell County that there are in this state. But as my law partner used to say, they're magnificent. We just have some that are more magnificent than others. And one of the things that we've identified in this process is that we need to mentor. We need to train some of these new attorneys and younger attorneys. And that's one of the things that has happened as a result of this process is the judges are developing a mentoring program because we want people to get up there and represent the defendants that are charged with those first and second degree felonies. We want more attorneys on that appellate wheel.
Do you think the mentoring process would help get more attorneys on that thing?
I think it would. We've got some really good attorneys that are writing appeals that have done it for years and that are very competent at it. But unless somebody takes you by the hand on that first appeal, that's tough business. And so that's part of our mentoring process is that we want to, if you're interested in maybe doing appeals, yes, we're going to hook you up with somebody who does those.
One of the things that we do track is attorney issues, and if you look at the graphs, especially the last graph, it goes up and then it goes down, which is directly related to the project. When they figured out that we were tracking it, it went up. When the attorneys figured out
Complaints from the inmates.
Complaints from the inmate. When the attorneys figured out that we were tracking it, it went down. Those are level 2 and level 3 escalation issues, which we have 0 in October. Judge really has talked about the plan of judicial changes. One of the things that was born out of this was a true cultural change where before this project, the judges, both sides of the house, did not meet regularly with regard to indigent defense. They may meet in other matters, but not in indigent defense. So we put together the criminal judges, and like Judge Jezek said, both district and county criminal judges meet together. The decisions are made with each other. When everyone reapplied, the district judges made their list, the county judges made their list, but the important component of that was we didn't release anything until the same time. We've really tried to show a unified effort to the local bar that Bell County is working together in this matter. We now have judges, and it's almost become too easy, where we've had a meeting that I thought I was presenting something that wouldn't go over well, and 10 minutes in, it was all approved. So if you rewind that to a year and a half ago where our judges weren't meeting at all, and we had some very strong resistance to today where we're able to generate 2 new projects out of this effort, which is mental health indigent defense and attorney training, mentoring, and evaluation, which have both been funded by the commission. You know, one of the lessons learned, and we've kind of talked about this, is local bar buy-in is critical. We have tried to keep the bar informed through email. We've had an attorney summit where we had 75 attorneys both on and off the wheel. Those that were interested came together and we told them what Bell County wanted to do. I've never seen a room of 75 attorneys in absolute silence, but it was an interesting event.
And let me add here, one of the things that was a surprise to me is that the attorneys, I think, appreciated the effort that the judges made in looking into this. They know who takes care of business amongst themselves, and they know who doesn't. And we had some really good attorneys who had been on our court appointment list who had gotten off because they were really unhappy with what some of their colleagues were doing, and they just didn't want to be a part of that system. Well, with this new process, and when they know that we are looking at some of these indicators of performance, some of those attorneys have gotten back on our list, and we certainly need those kinds of lawyers that are willing to represent indigent defendants.
Pretrial Services today is a whole different department than it was a year and a half, 2 years ago. We had to make some organizational changes. That department now reports to Judge Burrows from a Commissioner's Court standpoint and Judge Jezek for all judicial matters. That was an important component. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been successful, in my opinion. Some other lessons learned. Got 1 minute left, so I thought we'd listen to some wise people as well as Billy Crystal. It says, change is inevitable, except from a vending machine. Robert Gallagher. If you have always done it that way, it is probably wrong. This is my mantra. Charles Kettering. If you want to change the culture, you'll have to start by changing the organization. Fundamentally, counties are horrible at that, and that's what we hope to improve. Change is such hard work. Change before you have to, and the most famous one is, this is fixable. Any issue that comes around, that's generally our term, this is fixable.
Let me add one thing here, if I might. One of the things that has been invaluable, absolutely invaluable in this process, is to have that neutral third party. You know, if I'm a district judge, the sheriff's office is not real pleased if I show up and say, guys, you know, let's fix your problems over here. That's not going to go over very well. But with having a neutral third party that doesn't have the baggage that the rest of us as elected officials or as working in the county for many years may have, having these consultants come in and just review, just to be able to walk into the sheriff's office and review their processes, come into my office and review how my court coordinator and I conduct our business, and to go down to the clerk's office and to the auditor's office. That is absolutely invaluable because they can come in, observe those processes without any axe to grind with anybody, and identify the processes and present those to the folks that can make the changes. The other thing that's been very helpful is the commission. And Jim, thank you very much for your staff and their wonderful support. It has been invaluable. They're very accessible. They're very helpful. And in our county, the cooperation that has come out of this between the elected officials and the department heads, Commissioner's Court, I mean, it's a team working together, and it's in a team that's trying to improve the delivery of services for indigent defendants in our county.
I would say that's the most successful component of the project that we have, is that working together, and that out of the initial project came 2 new ideas and 2 new projects that I believe, you know, the commission funded, and that I believe will be a model product in the state.
Some of the software projects here is funded by our grant, and so they don't belong to Bell County. You know, they're going to be available. You know, you may have to tweak them to make them work in your situation, but they're going to be out there for you. And the importance of that third-party person and getting the confidence of your elected officials that you're not looking in to find where they've messed up and you call a press conference on that. You know, that you're looking quietly, making things work better. And it took a while to get the confidence of the sheriff's office on that, but now we have that. And so we can go in and look at things, get real answers to questions, because we are not trying to make them look bad. We're trying to make the whole system work better. Thank you very much.